Okay, Alderman Piper is on his way, but we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Let's stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Doc, would you mind giving our invocation?
Be happy to. Let's pray, y'all. Dear Lord, we come to give you thanks for this day. We thank you for our city and our many blessings here. We pray, Lord, for all of those who make this their home, and just pray for those around us that are in need. We pray you lead us here tonight, Lord, as we work on our new budget. Help us to make the right decisions for our city, Lord. Lead us in all that we do. Forgive us of our sins. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no, and the agenda is approved. Since we were going to have this meeting anyway, Malia Tyus from the Soil and Water Conservation District called, and she was hoping we could just add this in here today because she has to start advertising this workshop, which is on September 9th. And I told her since we were having a meeting already, I didn't see a problem with it. As y'all know, Soil and Water Conservation District is located here in Hernando. They do a lot of work for the county and for the citizens of the city. And they just want to hold a wildlife food plot workshop and not pay at the Gale Center on September 9th. So we just need authorization to let them use the facility at no charge.
I make a motion to approve the use and waiver the maintenance fee. Second.
There's a motion and a second by Alderman Robinson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no, and that motion passes. Okay, the budget workshop. I'm not anticipating any approvals of anything tonight. What I'm hoping we can do is work through these three pieces of budget tonight. Y'all tell the department head, Lee, me, and Pam, changes you want made, and then hopefully we'll bring these changes back at the final meeting when we do the whole budget and approve it. So really, this truly is a workshop. Lots of questions to be asked. We have the BBI accounting software right here in front of us. Lee can answer questions. So I wanted to do these three pieces, and the first one is a standalone. It's the hotel motel tax. There's really not a department head over that one. It's a one-pager, so I thought we would just start with that one. Don't ask any, or don't hesitate to ask any questions, because every question you're going to ask, I probably asked 3 times to get it straight. So there's a lot to learn, and I'm relearning a lot. Pam is getting up to speed on it, so we're all in learning mode together. So I kind of just want this to be informal, workshop-based, and any questions you have, just ask. And we'll kind of just start at the top of each budget and go down the line. So you can see that the way this is set up, it shows what last year's budget was and what the new budget is proposed to be. So for instance, that very top line item, which is 108,000-261, that is the revenue, the main revenue that comes in. Based on what we're seeing right now, that 36,000 should be a conservative estimate. I think we're up to like 34,000 today. We've got 6 more weeks. So that's what we would estimate that revenue to be. That is the special tax on hotels. And just an FYI, somehow or another years ago when we got this special tax on hotels, this tourism tax, ours was one of maybe only 2 or 3 in the state that did not have a repealer. So it's there forever, which doesn't happen anymore. So it's not something we have to go back to the legislature and ask for every year. And of course, as we get new hotels, this is going to grow. We know there's a hotel coming over behind Arby's. We don't anticipate getting any sales tax revenue or any tourism tax revenues off of it in the next budget year. If we did, it would be minimal. So that's why we put that $36,000 number there. So anybody got questions on that revenue item?
What,
go ahead.
what is the percentage that is charged at the hotel for this?
It's, Andrew, is it 1 or 2%? It's been so long. Do you remember?
I think it's 1%.
I think it is just 1%, yeah. And so they turn the money into the state sends it to us.
And we get the full 1%?
We do. So as we get more hotels, that number will grow, and there's various things y'all can do with that money, so. The Dickens of a Christmas is the next line item you'll see with something on it. So you'll see there's a $15,000 anticipated revenue. Those are funds raised by Gia. She just raises all of them from sponsorships and various places. There's a small grant she's applying for. You'll also see, if you look down at 402,555, there is an equal number there for expenditures. So that's best case scenario. We bring in the same amount of money we spend. And obviously it'll be a little different, but that's how we budgeted for that line item. Same with the water tower 10K race. You're gonna see we've got a $17,000 anticipated there, and let's see.
Yeah, 652 all
Yeah,
the way down.
652 has got a $17,000 expenditure. So, and it could vary either way, but we are gonna make sure we work within, if we raise 16,000, we'd make sure not to spend more than 16,000, so. Farmers Market, as y'all know, the Farmers Market is an outside entity not owned by the city. So this is actually a Farmers Market grant that Gia was able to obtain that only cities can get. So she's still working through it. I think there's another $40,000 or $50,000 in that grant. She only anticipates spending $10,000 of that. It's on advertising and stuff, so we'll get that money in and then spend it right back out. Item number 553, that $10,000. And last year they did a transfer from the general fund. It looks like we have enough revenues in there. There would be no need to transfer any money from the general fund, so I left that at 0. Transfer from surplus, that number is literally the cash left over in this fund. That's what will be left over on October 1 that we start the year out with. So we're starting off with that money, which made me, and actually the $96.50 that was gonna be transferred in this current budget from the general fund, I asked them not to transfer it because we don't need it. So we're gonna leave it in the general fund to be extra cash brought forward in that fund. Supplies, there's 1,000. It was 1,000 last year. We've already went over the farmer's market. Mayor's Youth Council is paid for out of this. Any supplies they might need, it's usually not much, so we put 500 in for that. We're not sure they're gonna meet because of COVID restrictions with the school. We kind of follow their lead. There's the Dickens of a Christmas again. The beautification, they sometimes buy benches or do flowers or something, so that money is there if we need it. Website maintenance money is in there. We're able to do upgrades to the website with this money. We think that's the appropriate tourism-related thing to do with it. Travel would be conferences that Gia has to go to related to things like this. For instance, when she goes to the Mississippi Main Street Conference, when some of us go in a couple of weeks, it will be paid for out of here. All right, so this line item on promotions, this is an estimated number, but it seems to be enough because we didn't spend everything last year. This is for the groups like there's a variety of groups that ask us for money. Like the Rotary Club will ask us, the Lions Club will ask us for money. Haifa, the football group, asked us for money. That's where those are given. Y'all will approve every one of those. They don't just get given without board approval. That's the way that works.
Band, all that kind of, anything that.
Yeah, the
that's gonna
band
go out
needs
and
money,
promote
all
the
that
city.
stuff. So those come out of there.
And most of it is up, I think, we was capping it around 350, something like that.
Yeah.
Is this the nonprofits we give money to, or is that?
Yes, generally speaking. I think that's all we can give to.
But,
Yeah.
well, like I said, I wouldn't necessarily say nonprofit, because when the band come,
Yeah, they're not
they not a,
they don't have to be a
I'm talking about
501c3,
like
but
like
just,
House of Grace and some of those charities. that
Yeah.
come
that's
in.
right. We give
Yeah.
House of Grace out of here as well. So that's that line item. The water tower 10K we saw. The fireworks, last year we spent 13,000 on it, so I put 13,000 in there again. The travel for the Mayor's Youth Council is in here. They go to, the way the Mayor's Youth Council works, if they give enough community service hours and come to enough meetings, they can go on the big conference that they have for leadership. And so this is about renting the bus and all that stuff to get on there. And it's at a different college campus in Mississippi every year. So that's that, and then at the bottom, to make it even out, we say 43,500 is contingency, which gives us a 0 fund balance. So we have all those items listed in there and still have a 43.5 contingency item in there. And the money in tourism has to stay in tourism because it's its own fund. So does everybody kind of agree with that? See anything wrong with it? Anything you'd want to change? And if questions come up after this meeting, when you take these home, call us, for sure. So, y'all wanna move on to the street budget? So streets is a small piece of the general fund. However, the streets department historically has been run by the public works director. At some point in the future, the bigger you get, you end up getting a street manager. But I think we're still okay where we are for now. So we've got salaries coming out of there. So they just total up to what they, oh, I need to stop right there and tell y'all this, ask y'all this, get your opinions. I'm gonna try to do this across the board. Well, we would do it across the board if we do it, okay? If we do it. I'm not taking liberties. But the numbers I put in here include a 3% pay raise for all employees. That's what these personnel numbers include. I'm hoping we can find enough money to do that. If y'all think it needs to be more or less, let me know. But any numbers I show you in personnel are gonna be with a 3% pay raise.
And that's for every department.
Every department that I present is gonna have a 3% in it. There may be some, and when we get into other budgets where, like, I know Alderman Wicker had talked about, some of the people in the Parks Department really needed a big bump because they're only making $10 an hour.
Right.
That would be different, but right now, in these, this is just a straight across the board for everybody, 3%. If that works, it works. If it doesn't, or if we could do more or less, I know we always have to adjust those things, but that's what I'm showing you right now.
Is that everyone, including the Board of Aldermen?
We haven't gotten to the admin, but
Okay.
I would put those in as well when we get to the admin section.
I'm
Y'all
not
can say-
asking. I'm not asking for one. Just to
Yeah.
clarify, I'm just.
But, when I do the admin budget, I'm gonna put it on, Julie is putting it on she's giving me a spreadsheet with everybody on it.
What does that equate to?
I'll have to get back to you on the total on that for the whole budget. I will get back to you on that. That's a good question. So what I did is I brought something to keep questions on so I can, and when somebody asks a question that I can't get you an answer for, I'm gonna get it back to everybody.
Lee, how many employees are paid out of the street department?
You got another sheet under here?
Okay,
That's the payroll.
so just one employee is Dalton Hauser? He's the only one? Okay.
That is it.
All right, so you see the one person salaries there in street, then we jump down to street supplies. You can look through those items. We bumped that up $3,000 at the department head's request. Sidewalk supplies, he didn't spend as much on, and when we're talking about supplies, this is things the city would buy to do work with their own employees. So, for instance, street supplies might be the cold mix.
Right.
Or the patch stuff for the new patching machine. Sidewalk supplies might be bags of concrete so they can mix it up and
Could
pour
be.
one section of sidewalk. So it's just those supplies that you use yourself.
9 times out of 10, if we repair or replace a sidewalk, it's because of a street dig or a water leak that we've done. So it comes out of another line item. So it's not as used as much as you think it would be. That's why we reduced it by $3,000.
This is the gas and oil, the next one down. $500 in protective clothing, $2,500 for repair and maintenance of equipment, $1,000 for motor vehicle repair and maintenance. Street repairs is where you're really gonna be buying the stuff for your new
That's right.
patching machine.
That's right.
So you end up with $32,000 in supplies, which is $500 more than we had budgeted last year.
Is that enough on the street repairs?
It's significantly cheaper with that patching machine.
Oh, it is?
We can patch on average, probably 8 to 10 street patches for around $1,000, where we were doing before, it's probably close to 15,000.
Oh, wow.
So it's a significant savings, time and money.
Explain to them what the street repair, cause to make sure that they mind anything about asphalt.
So
Okay.
when we have a contractor come do it, they use hot mix, which, just straight from the asphalt plant. They bring it out, they lay it in, they roll it out. It gets cool, it's hard. The new street patching machine mixes CRS2, which is an emulsion liquid. It's kind of like a tar, basically. And it mixes that with a gray rock we have a tolerance of quarter to 3/8 of an inch size. It's washed, clean rock. It mixes that together. When it cools down, it comes out of the machine about 160 degrees. When it cools down, it becomes hard and lasts longer than the streets.
Oh,
So
wow.
it works really well.
So that was a very good purchase.
So far, so good. So far, so good.
Lee's been out with the crews, helping them learn
Yes.
and making sure they're getting on the right track. So
Absolutely. The training went well also with the guy that came over from
Have y'all
from
done
Texas
some
Patrick.
in
Done a
that-
ton.
In the city?
Done a ton. Most recent was over there on Valley, right behind the school,
Okay.
school board. One's over there. We did probably.
Vaden Street.
Vaden,
behind the
Vaden.
school.
Vague,
Vague.
because I want to go by and
Yeah,
just.
take a look
see
at
what
it.
they
We've
like.
done probably 10 street cuts that we've done, made repairs on.
Well, that's good.
So we can leave a base layer of 610 in there, and lower it to about a 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch below grade of the asphalt, and then we come back and cover it, encompass the whole hole so it all ties in. So we'll see how
That's
long they
good.
last. But, all the people that I've talked to, even locally, with the county, are telling me that's gonna outlast longer than the road. So
You go
think
test
it'd be
it on
good.
Fairway Drive.
it's on the list.
All right, if y'all are ready, we'll turn the page on streets. Other services, that line item is a big line item. That's where we literally pay other people, like Riley
right.
Paving to come out, pay the company that came and trimmed the street trees that time.
Tree
things of that
services.
nature.
When we need trees trimmed, stuff like that, when they're on our common property or something like that, and they're overhanging a street or someone's home, something like that, or mainly in our right of ways. When a tree dies, you think, well, it's in their yard, they take care of it. No, we have a 10-foot, 20-foot, 40-foot right of way, whatever it may be, so we end up having to take care of the tree.
And I'm looking at the history over here with Pam. Some of the other things we paid out of here are to DeSoto Electric. They have to maintain our streetlights for us, those type of things.
Yep.
So tree removal, lots of Riley Paving in here.
Is all right, when you're saying the other services, and that's just to pay? I mean, is that enough, $75,000 for all the repairs we're gonna have to
We
do?
came in-
We've only spent 42,000 this year.
So we cut it based on those numbers.
But that's just repairs, that's not even like overlays and.
Right, yeah, that's.
No,
not
no,
everybody's.
completely
That's not
separate.
repairs.
Okay,
Completely
okay,
separate.
that's
Yep.
separate.
Yes,
Okay,
separate.
I was like, because that's definitely not enough for that.
Completely
That's for
separate.
certain. Sidewalk repairs, 7,000. Landscaping service and repairs, 18,000. Those are just, that one's staying flat. Engineering services is flat.
Is that outside engineering services or at Joe Frank?
It would usually be Joe Frank. Utilities, this is what it costs for our streetlights, the $250,000.
Cost a fortune.
We pay a lot of money to have those streetlights on every night.
Wow.
But it's worth it, of course. Outside repairs to vehicles, that helps maintain,
Tires,
yeah.
if a truck breaks, oil changes, stuff like that, oil filters.
I want to ask a question.
Sure.
I see that the city's taking everything to one location, Bryant Tires.
We are. It's just, everything but the diesel trucks, we alternate those. Some go to Turner in Nesbit, some go to Burleson, some go to Paul Bryant's. With Paul Bryant's, it's just about efficiency for us. He can do it so fast, normally the same day. Where if we take it somewhere else, it could say we might get it to it in a couple days.
I just wondered if anybody, I mean, because you're dispersing it throughout the city, but I
We
just
are.
wondered if anybody came to y'all and say, y'all are using him and we would like to get a bid or,
I'd love to.
I just wondered.
Nobody's ever approached us.
And we went through this years ago. I remember that because people were saying, well, and so we tried using some other ones. And I know the manager at Gateway and I know the owner at Ultimate.
Yeah.
They're great people,
We use Ultimate a little bit.
but for some reason, Paul Bryant will literally take our vehicles and put them in the front of the line.
Every
I mean,
single
that's
time.
good.
That's what he does every time, and the other ones just can't do that and don't really. Now, it could be worth asking them again.
Sure.
But I'm just, that's the way it used to be.
Well, I know that, and I'm not saying we can't do that, you just don't want businesses here in town to be offended that you're not giving them an
Right.
opportunity
a
to.
good
Favoritism.
Yep.
or-
That's
yeah, I
all,
understand.
it's just like why you have to roll our accounts every 2 years to different banks, so you disperse your funds equally to the local banks and just
Absolutely.
things like that. I just wondered
Sure,
if that was something
Let's-
like
let's-
that.
Let's give it a shot, you know, with
worth a
the
shot.
others, because they're all good people.
they're all great people.
So let's
I know
try
a
it a
ton
few
of them.
times and see if they can move them in and out as quick as the
Sure,
other one.
sure.
Yep.
And if it's not effective or efficient, then that's
It's worth a shot.
understood, but yeah. And cost effective too. I just
Right.
wondered.
Back to the streetlights, are most of our lights energy efficient, or,
No.
They are not.
okay.
No.
And I will tell you, I've had a company approach me, and they just sent me a follow-up email. There's a company that did it in Tunica. They went through, they did an energy efficiency study. They got with Entergy, and they replaced all of theirs with LEDs, and it lowered their bill, and they did it all at once. So you end up with a note that you pay them for replacing them all. However, your streetlight price will come down enough to more than compensate for that.
Right.
So, once we get the budget behind us, I may be re-engaging with that group and seeing them, let them give us a full proposal to bring to the board and see how that works
But you
out.
do know Energy is going through now and upgrading a lot of properties now. Energy is already upgrading
That's
the
a good
LED.
point too.
Because it helps them out too on
It coming with
the load.
It coming also with a cost.
And they did
And the
some of
cost-
ours about
well,
6 years ago,
I'm
they
finna say-
just
I'm finna-
randomly.
The other cost is that where you had more privacy, and you might not think it is, but when you get LED lights in places where you have more privacy at your home, you're gonna lose a lot of your privacy because it's gonna be so lit up so well.
right.
I'm serious, I mean, that's a complaint I
They're
heard.
right, yeah.
Oh, they're just brighter.
A lot
Yeah, I mean,
brighter,
I'm
a lot more
serious.
efficient.
I mean, it is something you don't think it until you, when it start going through the city, you'll see what I'm talking about. It
Oh.
do makes a difference.
You want it brighter.
Well,
In certain areas, maybe.
but at the lighting we got now is already good for safety. What I'm saying, the LED is more cost efficient as it relates to money.
That's right, it
But
is.
it also takes, that's a personal thing now.
And there's been 2 subdivisions that I've had to approve for new lighting, and we've approved both of those with LED lighting, not with the old style lighting. So that's something that just comes through our desk. They give a lighting plan in the new subdivision. We look at it, Entergy looks at it, and then when everybody's happy, we sign off on it.
I'm sure these are things that y'all considered when you're putting this together, but I know we have one new piece of equipment, with the pothole machine, right? Is there any other new equipment that may have any preventive maintenance that we're gonna have to do that may not be reflected in previous budget?
No, just regular maintenance, nothing
Okay.
huge. The only maintenance that I could foresee popping up would be a sewer lift station, something like that. We had to spend a good chunk last year on a failed submersible pump over on Memphis Street. But I mean, anything could break, but as far as scheduled maintenance, we don't have anything that could potentially come in.
Let's see, the next couple line items are 10,000 and 1,700. You'll see that in all the different departments, the uniform number went up. Lots of the people were not wearing a uniform, and they were
Correct.
coming in not looking very professional.
Correct.
Lee has changed it to where the employees wear a uniform, but we're providing those. They're the rental and laundry service, so there's no
Everybody
reason
looks
they
sharp
shouldn't all
every
be in
day.
a clean uniform every day.
No reason you shouldn't have it clean because they do it for you.
And he got them some that are more comfortable, that are
A
not.
lot cooler.
Yep.
Yeah. It's got the reflective, so high vis, so they don't have to wear a vest also, so it's less clothing they have to wear, so
And then we got them on state contract, so it's a significantly discounted price over what
It is.
outsiders pay.
it is.
So you'll see that that number's gone up in most of our departments. So it was.
We did a budget amendment to,
That's right, we sure did.
We did.
You're right.
We absolutely did to cover the cost the rest of the year.
And so the only other thing in the street budget, and of course, this number could go up or down once we get into the entire general fund and see how much money we have in the general fund. But we had 850,000 in street overlays and maintenance last year. And I just put the same number back in there. And obviously, that is a big one that everybody cares about, and I think we would all want to spend the most we could spend on it. Go ahead.
That's what Beth was looking at. That's the number you were looking
Yeah.
for.
That's right. That's the street
Do we
overlays.
have any carryover from the previous budget? I know that they had some money in there at one time, but.
In the general fund, we will, all right, so all the money not spent in the general fund just kind of goes back in the general fund. So I haven't done the math yet on that one because I haven't done the whole budget. but there will be some cash brought forward. I worked out we'll see that in just a minute on the Public Works Fund. So you really have to do some ciphering. So what I did on the Public Works Fund, Amy Claire told me today what our balance was in the bank, because that one's totally separate. Then I went through and did a list that Lee has looked over of potential revenues that are major. Made all those, we added that to it. Then we did a list of potential expenditures that we know are coming that are major in the next 40 days. And that left us with like $1.5 million, which will be our cash brought forward. And we'll do the same exercise in the general fund as well.
I think there were some, if I remember correctly, when we met with the previous mayor, there was some, I guess they didn't get some contract done.
That's right. So we didn't spend all of this $850. Hang on just a second, I'll tell you how much we spent so far.
Lehman Roberts, you guys don't forget too, Lehman Roberts is coming to finish that Mackinville over there, so that'll be a pretty significant chunk. And then they're doing, motor scooter and old 51 too. It'll probably come out of that also. So I don't know the figures on that. I'm just saying be aware that that's still coming out of
Motor
there.
scooter and old 51 will happen in the next budget year, because
Okay.
we're not even opening bids till September. So we have, to date, have only spent $131,000 of that $850.
Right.
Really?
So that, it just didn't happen. So,
That's what I'm saying, maybe we could carry that over.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
basically double that fund.
Can I make a
I
comment?
don't think.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
come-
Andrew.
You can come on, Doc, first.
About 3 years ago, we hired CivilLink to come in and do a complete analysis of our streets and put together for us a maintenance plan, maintenance program that would carry us forward. I believe it was a 7-year plan. And in that recommendation, it included that we should have $1.2 million a year budgeted for street overlay work. And that was kind of a low number, really. They would like to have seen a bigger number, but the point is, we've got $850. It's been recommended to us that we should have at least 1.2. We have budgeted 1.2 in years past. We've never been able to use it, and we've gotten behind even further. So if we have the money available, I'd like to see that number go up.
Absolutely. I think we're all in agreement on that.
yeah.
Yeah.
What about
And I think,
the
sorry.
letter that we got Tuesday night? Yeah, the
That's on top of this,
250,000.
correct?
Okay, so,
That's extra.
so there's $250,000 that Senator McClendon and Representative Darnell worked to get for us.
For the traffic light.
So, yes, but Senator McClendon said it's really kind of earmarked to help MDOT with the traffic signal or roundabout at Oak Grove and 51. It's
Oh.
not just money to do
I was
what we
thinking it
wish
was,
with.
I was thinking it was road improvements.
I did too.
That's
But-
where
but
the way, that's the
just
way
what
I
Mike
read it in the
McClendon
letter.
Told me, but what I'll do is I'm gonna call MDOT and talk to them about it. We'll get an answer back to this board if they're expecting us to give them that money as part of that deal, or if it's just ours to use.
Because that could go in that 850 and get us where we need to be.
Sure.
But also make sure we also talk with our representatives also now. You know,
Yes.
we you know, Representative Donnell, you know, he's still a major player. We need to,
That's
you know.
right.
I don't
Right.
think we need to overlook him and not talk
Not
to
at all.
him.
Okay, I'll call both of them and talk to them, and then I'll talk to MDOT.
And
If we were to move that 250 to overlay, wouldn't we still be short on project there? We'd have to come up with money one way
The
or the other.
engineer, the chief engineer for the Northern District called me about 3 weeks ago and told me they were looking at it because they'd been asked by the legislature and MDOT to look at it. And they were really seriously studying it, and the way I interpreted it was they're gonna do something there. But I don't know if they're only doing it there because they starting out with this 250 or not. So that's what I'll try to find out. But it sounds like we're getting something done there. They're doing the study they have to do, and the study is showing that they do need something there, so.
So out of this 850, we've only spent how much?
131.
What happened there?
I think there's probably some that is,
There's
it
still
has
a
not
few
been
bills
spent
out
yet,
there.
but there's some bills that
There
are
are a
gonna be
few bills
spent.
coming, like, I don't think we paid for the work that was done on Oak Grove, so that bill will be coming.
That was a 6-figure paving job there.
All the money that we had, I'm sorry.
No, I was just thinking, we've also got the Valley Street, I think, isn't that gonna be in this budget?
Joe Frank is contracted with them to do it, Hopefully they'll do it and finish it and bill us before it's done, you're right. And Caffey Street, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
They don't have a lot of time.
right.
All the money, we spent, I don't know what the number is, but when we got hit with the bad storm, you know, we hired the company out of Wisconsin to bring their plows in here and cleaned our roads and streets. Did that come out of general fund or did that come out of our overlay money?
I believe it came out of general fund. I believe. I didn't
Yeah,
code
out
it,
the
but I
streets
believe it
section,
came out of
yeah.
general fund. I think the mayor coded that.
No, I'm with Doc, I think we need to move that 850 number up.
Yeah.
We're behind all over the city.
Significant.
I think the other,
Ever since I sat on this board, and Andrew's been here a long time, I think he'll support the fact that
I-
we seem to always be behind in that area.
I think we could move the money, but I need, before we said that we're gonna move this amount of money from general fund, I think we have to do due diligence to look at all the other budget because.
The whole
Yeah,
general
right,
fund,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
Because- But all of us could be thinking about that we do want to increase this number, but to increase it now, I think would be disservice to our other departments.
So
I'm-
if we had the fund, how much would we need to increase it to? What do you think?
But I'm just saying, we
At
just
least
let's say $1 million
1.2 according to that
or something
plan.
like that, you know, just come to $1 million or something.
Yeah, all I'm saying is when it's all said and done, we've got a final budget in front of us. If there's money, or if we get lucky and we've got extra money, that would be a place I'm saying I'd like to see us concentrate on up in that
This
number.
may be a question for Lisa. Say we put $1.5 million in there. Can you get those jobs done in one budget year?
It depends on the contractor. Joe Frank handles all that. He handles setting up the,
You want me to answer your question to be sincere? No.
Well, I mean, that's
I
what I'm
mean,
saying.
I'm talking about, and let's be real, and the reason that we go into what, the same thing that happened last week on the water. Companies are so busy now, and a lot of them gonna bid, they're gonna give you a bid, but it's gonna be so sky high that
Right.
you're not gonna accept it.
Mhm.
And so, to get a decent bid for our best bang for our money, I'm just saying,
well,
it won't get it all done in that budget year.
I think that's my concern is, I know that we're dealing with a report that's 3 years old, and that to me is, given inflationary pressures, like I think that we probably may need to revisit that possibly to see if they can update that. They already have a framework they can work from. I've seen the 2018 report. You know, it goes ward by ward, and obviously we can't use that because we've had redistricting done since then, so that part of it's not gonna necessarily be accurate. But it is a very, very clear 6 to 7 year plan for getting back on track. And it's not and I think it's important for us to tell the story to the people of Hernando that this 1.2 million that's going to be spent is not in half-inch overlay on your neighborhood streets necessarily. It may be on filling a divot in your street or filling a crack
right.
or something like that, and it's all expensive. It may be sealing the street. It's not necessarily going to be fresh blacktop covering the city of Hernando over the next 6 years.
Right.
So that's going to be an important thing to communicate to people.
All right, it's maintenance and street repair.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I think we all in agreement that we want to see that, that the plan upgrade. I think all of us is in agreement on that. I think that's.
Including
we need to
me.
be making that happen
Yep.
and come back with the board with something.
I think if it was done properly too, I think if you bid it out like the county does at the beginning of the year, I think you'd have a lot better shot at getting it all done. I mean, their paving budgets, don't quote me on this, $30 to $50 million, and they get all of their work done every year. So I think if it was, you did your homework now and you had everything ready by the beginning of the year to turn over to them and say, here, bid all this out at one time. Not bid this out, bid your trouble spots out. Here's my plan for the year. Here's what we need to pave. Let's roll.
And that's the
You
good,
know.
the way that we have done it in the past. I know is in
Sure.
February, we would just bid out the whole list.
Right, that's what
And then we
you're,
get a better
you know.
price.
But at the same time now, we got to look at when money's coming in.
that's right.
That's right.
That's right.
You know, yeah, you can bid out and get all your bids approved, but when is the revenue coming in? Because we have to already borrow from one entity over into the general fund to make it, because we know when our monies are coming in. So it's a lot of intangibles in that. And
It
if
is.
we had good surplus and everything, getting it bidded out the first of the year, awarding them contracts, it'll be good.
Sure.
But when you award a contract, that contract come with a trail on it that this good for how many days?
Right now, not long.
That's what I'm talking about, so.
Right.
So it's a lot of, it's more than, to me now, I'm a
Sure.
lay person now, but, you know.
And there's one more thing on this, down near the bottom. You can see 201-820 and 201-830. That's a loan, a $500,000 loan that was taken out in 2019 and matures in '24. So this is the principal and interest payment that's due in this upcoming budget year.
What is that loan for? Is that the AWG?
No, this was for a $500,000 loan in streets, so I'm thinking it was literally $500,250. So I think it was for overlays in 2019. I think they borrowed the money that year. So that one matures in 2024. So we got a couple more years to pay on that one. About $100,000 a year. All right, y'all ready to dig into the whole Public Works budget? So it's the one that says utility fund. It's 9 pages. If you'll notice at the top, you've got all these property taxes with zeros. The utility fund, Public Works fund, is not funded by taxes. It's an enterprise fund. By law, it has to support itself on user fees. So what our people pay for DECRUA fees and wastewater fees and water and garbage fees, all of those things are what have to fund this. And you can't give general fund money to this. It has to just stand on its own. So if you'll see, the first number you see there is $750,000 for NRCS. We have not gotten that revenue yet. The whole project has to be complete, or most of it has to be completed, then they're gonna pay us. Right now, it looks like we won't get paid in this current budget year, so we're budgeting to get all of that revenue next year. If in the next 3 weeks, they suddenly pay us a little piece of it, then we'll decrease that number. But I talked to Vince at Neil Schaefer, and he said we should just put that whole revenue item in next year's budget. That's probably where it'll turn out. So recycling fee, that's the money people pay to have the recycling picked up. Y'all can see that one, we left it flat, it doesn't seem to be moving. The DECRUA fee, just based on the history we're seeing, it looks like we'll bring in $1,740,000 in revenue. That's on the water bills, of course. Wastewater charges, it looks like it's trending upwards just a little, $380,000 over $370. Garbage fees, those are really easy to predict. It doesn't matter if it's hot or cold. Right now, we're getting a little over $10,000 a month, so we just know that number will continue going up just based on households. Nobody doesn't have garbage service, so $1,312,000 is what it looks like for next year there. Sewer fees were trending up. We're thinking 972 is the number. Sewer taps are trending upward, so we said we're anticipating another 10,000. We know we've got a lot of subdivisions out there that are going to be asking for sewer and water taps as they're building houses. Interest earned, this money in all these accounts earns interest. It just needs to be spread out in there. So best estimate is it'll be about $32,000 next year. Loan proceeds, I have at zero. I'm not proposing that we borrow money for anything in the Public Works Department this year. We just pay for what we need. We're paying, as y'all see further back, we are paying lots of notes right now with some new ones that came on this year. So until we get everything figured out, I'm just thinking we're not going to borrow any new money in that fund. That's what I'm proposing anyway. Water sales, it's trending towards 2.3 million over 2.1 million in the current year. Late penalties, lots of people just pay their bills late, and there's a fee for that. That's trending towards 125,000, which is a $15,000 increase over last year. So we get a lot of revenue over people paying their bills late. It's 125,000 is a lot of money. Water taps and meters, 215,000 is what it's trending towards. Reconnect fees is trending towards 35,000. That's if people's water gets shut off. We charge a fee to go out there and turn it back on. Return check fees, a small number, 2,500. Online fee revenue, if you pay your bill online, there's a small fee with that. Miscellaneous income, there's just some various odd things that come in for things we put on people's bills.
I have a question real quick.
Yes, go ahead.
So like when we're looking at these bills that water leaks and stuff, some of them are, you know, a couple of thousand or more, those come out of all this.
They do, and those are accounted for in those line items. You'll see a
Okay.
big one, I'll just make up a number, like $20,000, where they've added on, well, no, like $90,000 in water. That'll be a month. And then you'll see a whole bunch of little ones that are the adjustments.
That we're waiving those.
Yeah, that we're
Okay.
waiving and things like
Okay.
that. So it is accounted for in here.
Okay.
The transfer from surplus, I told y'all I did an algorithm basically to figure out where we are today and where we think our bank account will be October 1. We'll see how close we are on October 1, but best guess is our transfer from surplus will be $1,598,000. So it's always a shot in the dark, but I wrote it all down on paper so we can get as close as we can. Lee and I looked at it together.
We did.
You know, things like we haven't paid for the pothole patcher yet, so we took that as or an expense we know is coming. There's a $148,000 note due to South Haven, which is our final note on that lift station on McInville. It's the final time we'll pay it. We're gonna do it in this current budget, so we didn't have to budget for it next year. So right there's $200,000 expected expenses, and we accounted for those kind of things when we came up with this number. And then, what are you thinking you're gonna sell in old vehicles? I know you've got some things you're gonna sell, we thought would bring about 20,000.
Yeah, we're gonna sell an old brush truck, that's just costing more to upkeep. That's mainly all it is. We've got probably another 3 or 4 regular trucks, old sewer trailers that don't work anymore. They're just sitting at water plants and stuff like that, being an eyesore. And it's just not feasible to get them fixed. It's
You
gonna
gonna need
cost
a new
more.
brush truck?
Well, we bought one last year.
Okay.
It came in this year. So, actually, we bought it this year, I guess it'd be.
$133,000.
Yeah. So we still have, 3 that we run, so, and then one of those is a spare.
Okay.
And when they get ready to sell these surplus properties, those items will come to y'all itemized to the board to approve them to
Absolutely.
be surplus.
Absolutely.
Anything we surplus. And as we dig into things, and there's a pile of computer parts back here, and some are in inventory and some are just trash, but we'll be bringing lots of lists to y'all so as we can get the inventory straight.
That's right.
All right, the next part is engineer personnel services.
You mind if I ask one question about revenue?
Go right ahead.
So, is there any past due or outstanding fees owed in terms of sewer or garbage or anything like that? Do we have a way of tracking that so we know what is potentially out there?
I'm sure there are. There is a past due list out there. I don't know what it is, but I can get it and find out how much it is. It's not nearly as much as it used to be because now, any place we have sewer, we also have the water. And if you can shut someone's water
Yeah.
off, they'll pay you.
Sure.
The only ones we're gonna really see hanging out there are old ones where people have moved off owing more than their deposit would cover. That's mostly what we'll see. But I'll see if I can get a list of how much that outstanding debt is.
Okay.
Yeah, the outstanding debt decreased a lot when we took over that other water system also. But when we
Okay.
took over that other water system, they gave us more leverage on getting the bills paid.
Okay.
Because they would literally wouldn't pay the bill.
They weren't paying their sewer bills. Yeah.
Right.
There's
I remember
nothing you
that
could
was
do.
And it was
'cause
about
in my area.
$70,000 back then, so it'll be a number less than 70.
Right. It was in I was under Northwest
Mississippi Utility.
Mississippi, out in parts of Ward 6, I think parts of Ward 3 as well. So I didn't know how that all transpired and if we were still,
And man, they just wouldn't pay, but now.
So I think the board, when we bought North Mississippi Utilities,
Mhm.
some of these people owed thousands of dollars, and I think
Sure.
the board gave them a few months to pay back what they needed to before they were cut off, and everybody had to pay up.
Yeah.
yeah.
Payment plan type deal.
But
Okay.
I'll get you the number on outstanding debt. I wrote that on my to-do list.
Okay, great.
Engineering personnel services, Joe Frank gets just a set amount of money for being the city engineer, and he comes to the meetings and answers 1,000 questions from me a day, and so that pay there is his. And of course, if he does a big project, he charges us engineering fees on it, and we pay him in other ways, but that's the base pay right there. And let's see, if you go down to shop personnel, you can take your personnel list you got, the long piece of paper, and you can see which employee is in shop. It's at the very top of the page. It's Willie Smith. It's just one person that works and does all the work in there. So you'll see what his total package will be there.
Does he, I guess, work on the vehicles, I guess?
Yes, sir. Vehicles, equipment, pretty much everything is,
Change oil?
yeah, changes all our oil. Absolutely. We don't take any of our stuff for regular maintenance into any shops or anything like that. It's all done in-house. We, started buying bulk oil and, stuff like that last year, and it saved us a ton of money, and it's working a lot better.
That new building's a lot more conducive to doing that
It
kind
is,
of work.
it is. It's got a two-bay shop that's heated, and it's really nice.
Shop supplies, y'all can look through those 7 items or so there and see if any of that is something you might have a question about. You can see in that total 6 or 7 lines, we went up $1,150, so it's almost flat.
I mean, just the cost of everything's
It
going
is.
up.
It is.
I was just wondering if that was,
And Lee and I
Good.
had the discussion, Lee's only been in this position for how long?
About 90 days. It's longer than that,
Yeah.
but, yeah.
Maybe
I've been employed with the city a little over a year. so.
Yeah, and he has only been the leader for less time than a year.
Right.
So he is still finding efficiencies, and just because we budget for something doesn't mean he's gonna try to spend it all. That's not how we operate.
No.
So we're still gonna be looking for efficiencies through the year.
Oh, absolutely.
And once we approve the entire budget, I want everyone to realize it is the first draft of the budget, really. It's saying this is our plan for moving forward. But we have the legal ability to amend this budget at every board meeting. If we find something major that needs to be shifted, or if we made a mistake in it through the budgeting process. So we're not gonna be totally stuck with anything we do. But we're gonna give it our best effort as we go through the budget and try to get something that's a great framework for us to move forward on.
Yeah.
But we're always gonna be looking for efficiencies and things we can.
I'll look for something
make
every day.
better. So-
Every day. We
And
just
we're not
ordered-
gonna bring y'all budget amendments every board meeting, but I'm just saying legally, lots of cities do it almost once a month. Yeah.
Yeah.
You had indicated that we're gonna do a 3% pay raise. And I'm looking at shop salaries, it's 200, 410, looks like it went down, so was he making more or something?
It
They
did.
had some,
Go ahead.
they had some other people in there, like a different person and a half or something like that, so. And there was, yes, thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
We had a lot of overtime in there that we didn't need. So we moved it down from
that's
250,
overtime cost,
yeah, we moved it from 250 hours to 50.
That's all overtime cost cut.
Yep.
It went from, 250 down to 50, like you said, so.
All right, so let's move down to other services and charges, which starts with 605 through 641. The utilities are the utilities at the shop. That's that $25,000 one there. We are still working through trying to figure out exactly what the utility bill is going to be, because we had those back bills that we didn't know we owed because they weren't billing us. And
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, so, I mean, obviously we wasn't paying the bill, but didn't we budget for that money at some point? Where'd that money go?
Well, it was budgeted for, but I think I wasn't here, so I can't speak to exactly what happened, but, the building was transferred. It was never transferred on Energy or Atmos or any of the utilities. So basically, we used to not get any of the energy bills at Public Works. Those all came to City Hall, they were coded here, they were paid here, we just didn't know anything about them. So now, all those bills come to my office, I look at all of them for the most part, the best I can. But we had that building for a year, and none of the utilities were ever paid on it. So that's where that big chunk came in. And even when I was doing my amendment for that line item this year, we called Energy, of course, they wouldn't talk to us because we weren't on the approved list to speak with, but they couldn't give me an amortization of the bill for the past 6 months so I could budget efficiently for this year moving forward and next year. So we literally have no idea.
I'll go
So-
back to a question about outstanding balances. Obviously, Eva Ward, one of our employees, is watching us on YouTube. She reminded me that we still have sewer in Nesbit Water, and we have some outstanding balances up there in that area where we
We
can't
do.
collect. So we'll get those numbers to you.
Okay.
But,
And again, on the, sorry.
I'm a little, this bill was still coming in because we still had that shop and we're still running down there.
So we were paying the bill in the other shop, not paying the bill in this one?
Yes, it
That's
was
right.
paid,
That's
yes,
right.
Because it's still,
That's
it
exactly
never
right.
changed over on who the user was.
I'm assuming we're still, because I think we're still
We
using
still,
that bill
yeah,
for
we're still
some.
using the building, so utility was being paid, it was still being
That's right. That's
billed
what
the
it-
same way because the building didn't change over, the building process didn't change over, just because they moved. if that
It's a
makes
growing
sense.
pain, basically.
It is, it
Cause we
is.
still, cause we still got the tanks down there also, where we still use, you know, gas and stuff.
All right,
Alderman Piper has
Yeah,
something.
Oh,
another thing this is another thing to consider, just when we're looking at these utilities across departments. I know we mentioned energy efficiency on our streetlights, but also consider it for every department. That's something we can control, like the fixtures in here, right? They could be switched to LED for relatively low cost, and if that brings us a 30% return on this number, or whatever it may be, I don't know, that's just a
Usually it's between 30 and 33%.
blind guess, right? That's just a blind guess based on market knowledge. But that's $7,500 that we could potentially save. If we do that in every department, that's really significant. It pays for itself really quickly. So just something to put in the back of your mind when you see that utility in every department, you know, is there something we could do there, you know, to make a difference, make an investment, and then and make a difference for our future budgets.
and the technology changes so quickly. We did all of City Hall at one point and got more energy efficient bulbs, but I think it was before LEDs, so I don't think they're LEDs, they're just more efficient.
That's right. They probably went from T12 to T8,
Yeah,
just a
that's
smaller
exactly
gram
it.
bulb.
So we need to always be watching that, so thank you.
Sure.
Let's see. We've got 2,000, if you turn the page, 400, 200-750, there's 2,000 in furniture and fixtures. What were you, Lee, remind us what you were gonna do with that?
That's just for office furniture, and, you know, stuff that wears out in the shop, you know, over time, chairs, and, last year we bought a conference table and some chairs to put in a front office to make it more meeting friendly, you know, where you just weren't meeting in an office and pulling chairs together and stuff like that, so it just helps out with that kind of stuff.
The next department is sewer, so you can look at that first sewer personnel and look at the top left-hand of your page and see all the people who are paid out of sewer. And you'll see as you go through some of these, a lot of the employees who work in this front office over here, their main job is collecting water and sewer bills, or if they're in accounting, half of their pay is because they're doing accounting for public works, and the other half is because they're doing accounting for admin. So you'll see people here who are not actually out working in the streets, but they are working for that department just in this building. And you'll also see at the bottom of that, on the spreadsheet, you'll see overtime at 250 hours to spread amongst all those people as well. And so those totals are put over into the budget.
Throw that number again out for improvement in funds and stuff.
$2,000.
2,000.
I'd like to see a breakdown of that capital improvement, because to me, that's a lot of furniture and stuff.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, I'm serious, I just can't gloss over that much.
Sure,
That's a lot of money.
absolutely. It was all, a lot of it was fixing up the shop too, decorating it, as far as frame maps and,
I still say.
sure,
I would
absolutely,
like to see
absolutely.
a list,
We can handle that.
and Mayor,
I've written that on our to-do list.
because I think,
Itemized that.
I wanna make that request, June, for, if they have capital improvements, just numbers in here, I wanna see a list to correspond with those numbers in capital improvement.
Agreed. Okay.
Because it's hard for us to take down a number in capital improvement if we don't know what we're taking down. At least if I don't know what I'm taking down.
Okay.
We had some, $2,000 or $3,000 chairs one time in the fire department.
Let they recline.
Oh, they did more than what they got massage too, man. Keep it light, man.
All right, the next section down there is labeled sewer supplies.
That's all pretty much flat, looks like.
It is exactly flat. So, of course, and so, once again, things that say supplies are pieces and parts we buy that our own workers use to repair things or do
Right.
things with. So, in the sewer station repair and maintenance, that would be if one of the lift station pumps goes out, the belts for those machines.
It's got a
stuff
lot of
we're
wear
gonna
and tear
fix.
items on it. It's got rotator assemblies in there, didn't have to be changed out when the seals go bad. We used to get those rebuilt, but it's becoming clear that we can go with another company, another brand, and buy them cheaper than we can get them rebuilt. So we're testing those out now to try to be more efficient and more frugal. You know, stuff like that you can't foresee. You know, you can plan for maintenance on those things, but last year we had a $25,000 submersible pump go out. You know, that wasn't foreseen, so. But
And I will say, when you keep those replaced and efficient, your utility bills stay lower. We found that out when we used to have an outside company do our water and sewer, and they were checking our lift stations, but they didn't pay the electric bill on the lift stations.
Right.
And when we took it back from them, we replaced 3 of the rotator assemblies in lift stations, and we saved about $14,000 in electric bills the next year.
it just runs
So
more
it's a pretty
efficiently.
major thing.
And we have a gentleman that checks every single of the 30 to 35 lift stations every single day. Every morning. He goes and rides all day long, cleans them out, replaces them, repairs them, and keeps them top notch.
Is there anything else in that section that anybody wants any more detail on? If not, we'll move on down to the next section, which is sewer other services and charges, which is generally where we hire or pay outside people to do something. The first major one on there is the utilities. So that is the money we pay to run the sewer lift stations. There's a bunch of utility bills that come in separately, and they're all put in that one line item. And it looks like it's going to stay about the same. DeCrua charge. So we get a letter from the Regional Sewer Authority, which I have in my office, and it tells us, based on what we used last year, how much DeCrua is going to charge us this year. That $2,452,000 is what they're going to charge us. So it is what it is. But at the end of the year, so they're sending the same letter to Horn Lake and to South Haven and to Walls and Olive Branch. And we are the second largest user after Olive Branch. At the end of the year, they really track exactly what we used, and then there's a true up. Because they have a budget, let's just say their budget's $10 million. And if we were supposed to pay 2.4, but our usage came in lower than they expected, South Haven or Olive Branch might have to pay an overage and we get a refund. Or it can be vice versa if we used more than they anticipated. So it's a true up. We either get some back or pay some at the end of the year. But this is the number we have to put in, and we're gonna pay them $2,452,000 next year regardless. We pay them monthly, that's divided by 12, and then at the end of the year, there's a true up and we'll see what happens. So in that vein, if y'all would think about this, I've talked to a couple of people, and I can't remember who, but a lot of this, if you look at our usage in DeCrua, if it rains, we pay a whole lot more. So that tells us we're getting water in our sewer system, right? A lot of water. So Lee and I are gonna talk more about it, and later on, after the budget's done, come up with a presentation for y'all, with the idea being that we think we could hire a person whose only job is to be so in touch with our sewer system, they can find out where all the water's getting in, and maybe a $40,000 payroll could save us $200,000 in DeCrua fees. So we'll talk about that later. Kind of keep that in the back of your mind. We think we could literally save money that way, but we want to do a little more research on it and be able to present that better.
So
That's not in this budget.
So as far as in the county, Olive Branch takes the most, and we're second?
We're second. Because Horn Lake and South Haven have been sending theirs to Memphis, which is about to change,
A
so.
lot.
I was just trying to figure out how much more than. South
Yeah, they've
Haven.
been sending them to Memphis forever, and Memphis has told them they've got about a year to do something else. So they're in a pickle, literally. Outside repairs to storm drains, 60,000. Outside repairs to sewer, 82,000. And can you give us a couple of examples, Lee, about what we're doing in those line items for?
Sure. So typically, you know, all the neighborhoods in the city have storm drains, stuff like that. They tend to fail. They get holes in them. When that happens, they start sucking dirt in along with the water, which leaves giant holes in people's yards or in the streets or wherever they're located. So more than not, we have to sub those out because they're too big for us to handle. And that's typically what that's used for in storm drains. Sometimes we can band them on the inside, sometimes we have to dig them up, sometimes we have to replace them. So, just depending on the situation, what they're made out of, and how far gone they are. And we make a call from there, or the contractor makes the call from there.
So this is just an average cost of where you've been,
Infrastructure failure,
right?
for some reason or another, whether it
Like
be
in the older
damaged or
areas or just whatever,
everywhere.
everywhere?
Everywhere. Seen some new, seen some old. Mainly older areas though. Not incredibly old. Lee Summit's a big heavy hitter. Golf course. Northwood Hills.
Lee Summit had some issues with theirs not being sealed properly, so it
Correct.
caused a lot of extra expense, but that wasn't
That's
even
all
in
right.
this
We've spent a lot
past
of money
budget
over there.
year.
A lot of money over
Yeah,
there.
a lot of money there.
Sewer, same thing. Most of that is older. We spent a lot this year on Commerce out here in front of the flower shop. We had to dig it up. Problem with that, we cannot do it because 9 times out of 10, if it's on Commerce, it's over 20 foot deep. We can dig about 9, maybe 10 foot deep with our equipment. We just don't have the equipment big enough to do that. So we have to usually sub that out to, Cleveland Construction or Holden Enterprises. But it's mainly in the old areas. All that's clay pipe, so it deteriorates. And we got to go in and dig it up and fix it to get the customers relief on backups and stuff like that. Normally we find it, when they have a blockage, we'll take our jetter trailer out there, we'll jet it out, we'll find the blockage, we'll camera it when we can't clear it, and find out that it's broken, and then we got to fix it. We got to dig it. And the only way to do it is dig it up. You can't fix clay pipe by sleeving it or lining it or anything like that, we found. It's just not tough enough pipe to withstand the pressures and heat and stuff.
Shelter? Go ahead, I interrupt.
We're still having a problem with water getting into the system,
Yes, sir.
and then that causes other problem. Have we looked at someone to come in and check our system so we can kind of narrow down what our problems are? Cause we know we got some major problems.
Right, not that I'm aware of, Mr. Miller, we
But
haven't
I
yet.
think that's something, cause that have a direct impact also on the crew
It does.
and everything else, because see, when they get in there, and then they go through the crew to that meter, it causes us to have a higher price than we should have had.
That's right.
So when you stepped out a minute ago, we discussed that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the only thing you missed.
Right, that's it.
Oh, okay, then, well,
Yep, but I was talking about possibly later on, Lee and I could put together a presentation. and-
okay, I'm through, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and talk about that.
It's still a question that,
I'm glad we're all on the same page.
We are. We are.
So if y'all turn the page to the sewer capital outlay, there is that one big sewer, NRCS sewer project that's going on around town. It was down here by the Kirkendall Park. It's up in Fort Creek. It's down.
Wren Street.
Out, yep. So it's on a lot of streets. So this is one of those where we're paying out our money and we get it all back at or most of it back at the end. I think they divide it into 3 projects where we'll get 3 paychecks. We've paid out $518,000 so far. So we're assuming there's around $482,000 left to pay in the next budget year. So that's why we put that number in there. So that's something that's already contracted and underway. That goes back to that revenue item of $750 on the front page, the very front page. If those change a little before we adopt the budget, I'll shift both of those numbers. If we have to pay another payment or if we get some of that revenue back. But that's where we stand today, and we don't think we'll get any of those in the next 40 days.
Lee,
Yes, sir.
on this same project, some of the homes, especially at Wren and East Oak Grove Road,
Yes, sir.
it's about 8 to 10, maybe 12 feet where they came through and had to level off everything.
That's right.
But it wasn't seeded nor soil. So she just got a dirt backyard.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do about that? And when are we gonna do something about it?
That's a good question, Mr. Miller. I wasn't involved in any of,
See, I don't want to, that's when I said, what are we gonna do about it? I didn't say.
Sure.
I didn't say involvement because that's.
No, I understand.
That's almost like throwing throwing something, I'm just trying to, I know that we got a problem, and I'm looking to what we can do to fix it,
Sure,
not how it got there. We know it's there,
right.
and we know that something needs to be done, and I just want to make sure that you're aware that you have a plan to get something done.
No, sir.
That's all.
I was not.
Let's talk to Vince with Neil Schaefer and see if that's part of what they're paid to do.
Sodded,
I just
come back with some,
assumed that it just, the work wasn't finished yet.
That's
mean,
what I was assuming as well, but we
Right.
shouldn't assume it, so.
I
Don't-
could
don't
not
assume
imagine
that.
they would leave it as it is
It's
right
gone.
now.
I wouldn't think so either.
It's left.
Okay, well, it needs to be correct.
I figured they would at least put some straw mats or something, some kind of erosion control in
We
there,
got-
sod,
they even got
seed, something.
They got it, wine running up out the ground that was left there.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll get, Lee and I get together with Vince and walk it
be perfect
and talk about it.
There ain't been no found paper, that means all that kind of stuff need to be done.
beforehand.
Just like the track and everything, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
All
So a
right.
couple questions really quick. So we have DECRUA fees that come in as a revenue item. Then we have DECRUA payout that is almost $700,000 more. Why wouldn't those two numbers match themselves?
Because of all the infiltration.
Okay.
So we're
So that's
charged-
stormwater
It's the
essentially. that's-
stormwater
Yes.
getting in. So it's a huge number. It's a big number.
Okay. So that's what you're hoping, if we have a position that could capture that and reduce it over time, that position would essentially pay for itself.
That's right. More
so
than
to
10%.
speak.
Yeah.
Okay. And then also, so I know we have, it looks like we have decreasing revenues, but then we're gonna have salary increases. Is the decrease from the capital outlay, is that what basically balances it all out, more or
Right.
less? I mean,
If
is
you'll
that,
s- yeah.
I know that's really rough math there,
That
but
is
is that?
almost the exact amount of why it's showing decreasing. Otherwise, it's pretty much a flat sewer budget. The only difference is instead of $1 million in that NRCS drainage project, we got 482,000. So that's about where the difference is in the capital outlay. Everything else, and it's pretty flat.
Okay.
You want to move on to sanitation department? So here's an oddity in city accounting. If you're cutting grass alongside the streets, that's not out of the street budget. That's considered sanitation and storm drain type stuff. So that part's considered sanitation in city accounting. So you'll see in here that he's going to be asking to buy some tractors to mow the grass with and those type of things. So that's why that's there. So there's the sanitation salaries, and as usual, you can look over and see your spreadsheet and see who's paid out of that budget line. And other services and charges, let's see what we paid out of 400, 220, 600 last year, just to give us an idea. Okay, that is where we're paying the people that mow our exits mostly. That's where most of that money's coming from. So we officially adopted from MDOT, the Commerce Street exit and the Nesbit exit. MDOT mows twice a year, which the board's generally not thought was enough, so we have adopted those and we pay to get them mowed
That's right.
about every 10 days or so.
Yes, sir. I think it's 12 or 15 cuts a year, somewhere around in there.
So that's what that line item's about. Y'all see anything else in there before we turn the page that you need to ask about? All right. The big one at the top up there, the second line down is the $750,000. That's what we literally pay to the garbage company to collect our garbage. And there's a contract with them, so that number's pretty accurate. And then we've got the vehicle repairs in there and the equipment repairs and the uniform rental. That's what rounds that one out. And then you'll see the capital outlay. Can you tell us, and we'll get you in writing, Alderman Miller and the whole board, exactly what he's wanting to buy, which tractors with this 250 and the attachments on them?
Sure.
Can you talk
So-
about it a little?
The tractors we got now are extremely old. They're over 20 years old. Stuff's breaking on them all the time. Pumps wearing out. Just spending a ton of money on it. This is an estimate that we've gotten from John Deere on state contract. Not saying that we're going with John Deere. That comes with a new side boom where it reaches out and mows the ditch banks. Our batwing mowers, 14-foot wide. We've already got one of those. We can hook it up to either tractor. So the others are just in bad shape. We've used them a long time. They've been good tractors. Still run fine. Glass is busted out of a lot of them. The windows are hazed over, so it's a hazard for the guys mowing. They can't see out of them, so they have to open the door and mow out of them.
How many is this 250 for?
That's 2 tractors
For 2?
and 1 side boom mower.
So 3 pieces of equipment.
Yes, sir.
And we'll get a detailed list of what each costs.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll get that to
Absolutely.
y'all.
My question is based upon his statement, that we're gonna get another new piece of equipment because the glass is you can't see out of.
Right.
And it's cheaper to replace glass than it is to buy a new piece of equipment?
Well, that's not all it is, Mr. Miller.
I'm going by your words now.
Okay. If you'd like me to get into everything that's wrong with the
No,
piece of equipment, I can.
But you know, how many pieces we have running now?
Tractors?
How many pieces of equipment we have now that we use?
Tractor-wise, we have 1 that we can use. The other one's broken. It's waiting on parts.
And is that waiting on parts? Because I know the supply chain
Right.
is extremely behind now.
Yes, sir.
But are you telling me that even with that other piece of equipment is not worth having? I'm asking.
Well, I mean, it's worth having, sure. But the money you're gonna have to put into it is gonna be astronomical
Well, so then
to
ain't
get it
worth
back up
having
to.
then.
No,
I
sir.
mean, either worth repairing
No,
or it's not.
no. It's not.
And my question is this, if we got 2 or 3 pieces of equipment, you mean tell me that we have to buy all 3 pieces brand new this budget year, or 1 or 2 pieces can't stay this budget year, and buy 1 this budget year, and 2 pieces the next budget year?
Well-
I'm asking.
Yeah. So the tractor arm is tractor specific. It has to be put on a specific tractor and ordered for that tractor.
Okay,
So that goes with 1 piece of equipment.
okay.
Both those other 2 tractors were purchased at the same time, 20-odd years ago. So I thought it would be smart to replace them at the same time.
That don't make it, I mean, we can go buy brand new cars all at the same time.
Sure.
Don't make both of them run out at the same time.
Yes, sir.
Can you use like the equipment auction places and
Sure.
stuff and look at new, they're maybe just a few hours on them, but they're not brand new? And
We could, absolutely.
look at that.
This is
like-
just a rough estimate
Yeah,
that I got from
like
John Deere.
Crenshaw auction out of Robinsonville.
That's where we're sending our trucks and equipment to.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just wondered.
but yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. We absolutely could. And this is not
Because
a,
they're all the time getting, getting
Yeah.
different, anything you want.
and I spoke with the guy at Gov Deals while we were down at the convention, and I've been in close contact with him on a lot of stuff too. But to answer your question, Ms. Miller, if we take it to reliable equipment, who's the closest Kubota repair shop without having to pay somebody to haul it there because our trailer doesn't have lights on it and the boards are in disrepair, but anyway, last time they had it for around 7 months, replacing a hydraulic pump on the back. We just can't be down for that long and have those kind of expenditures and expect to run efficiently.
Okay, so was that a problem with the equipment or a problem with the person repairing it?
Both. The equipment was broken and then we had to take it to it.
Does that mean that equipment should not, it wasn't worth being repaired? That's my question.
No, it was worth it at the time, but it's compounded since then and has gotten much worse. I mean, we can go any way you want to go with it.
Not where
Yeah.
I wanna go. Don't throw that money on him. That's what we paying you for.
That's my recommendation, is to buy new tractors and a new mower for the side.
No, you said something about repair, so you changed, you went from repairing to buying.
we've already had it repaired. That's what I was talking about. We had it repaired at Reliable Equipment
You
last
actually
year.
said that I want you to take it somewhere else, then you said about buying, so I wasn't talking about that.
Okay.
I think we better move on.
All right, we'll come back with an itemized list too. And a little better, maybe a written description of what the cost would be to make the other ones reliable, so we can compare and contrast.
Sure. Absolutely.
So the three that you're replacing, what could we get for them?
Sold the two that, I'm not sure. I'd be scared to put a number on it. I would say probably 8 to 10,000 maybe. Just a rough number.
I'm just guessing here, but I'm assuming the reason you asked for that 250,000 is because your revenue is gonna be up about 250,000, so it's gonna be about square at the end of the day, right?
Yes and no. That was the estimate we got from John Deere. It just happened to work out like that.
All right, y'all want to move on to brush removal? Once again, you can see the salaries that are out of that salary personnel item. Brush removal supplies, there's your gas and oil, which is a major one, that's 38,000. The rest of them are flat or less. Actually, that total on brush removal supplies is 1,600 less than last year's budget.
Mayor, can I ask a question? I know gas prices have been up. I mean, are we looking at budgeting that flat or?
Let me see where we actually are.
And that's just not just his, but I mean, across
Right.
statewide. I mean, that's.
All the ones that I did an amendment for this year, I took that amendment and put it back into it and added more for the ones that I did do an amendment for. So hopefully,
So right now,
good.
on that line item, with 40 days left approximately in the budget year, we're at 20,590.
So we're in pretty good shape.
But we haven't put August in there yet. That's through the end of July. So we're most way through August, so yeah, this will probably be a fairly accurate number, even with price increases. All right. Looking for other large numbers. Outside repairs to vehicles, those brush trucks get a lot of outside repairs done to them.
a lot of hoses, a lot of tires. Dump's not a clean place. We back in there and we get flats. Some of them can be fixed, some of them have to be replaced because of sidewall damage. And gosh, we probably go through 5 hoses a week on the booms.
Is this the street sweeper? Does it come out of this? Does this repair for it come out of this account?
Street sweepers and sanitation, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Is it up and running? Is it working?
Somewhat. Somewhat.
Yeah, last I heard it was missing one of its
I like
brushes. or
that.
It's
something.
missing a center brush.
Yeah.
And then
That's a
it's
great
missing
question.
one of the side brushes.
Okay.
But it does pretty good with leaves and stuff like that on streets. It gets a little mangled up and stopped up, but the guys that run it do really well with it.
Need it be repaired, or do we need to look at buying a new one over the next couple of years?
I don't know that it can be repaired or not. I'm sure it can. The stuff that was in there literally twisted metal in half.
Yeah, I got you.
So it would have to be a significant repair done to it.
Well, let's look into that for next year's budget. We'll start
Sure.
thinking about it
Sure.
and seeing what we think of repairing it, because I know the street sweeper gets used a lot.
I think we leased one at one time, didn't we? A couple of years back? I don't know that, but that's just
We
hearsay.
used to sub it out, but that didn't work very well.
I got you.
They would just come when they felt like it, and we didn't
Right.
have control of it, which didn't operate well for our citizens.
Sure.
If you turn the page on the capital outlay for brush removal, you will see those are interest and, or principal and interest payments for brush trucks. One of them's a brand new, pretty new. It's a new loan in this budget year, and there's a little bit left on an old one in there. So
Yeah.
those together are about 45,000 principal and interest payments in this next budget year. Right now, those trucks are running 133 apiece. That's what we paid for the last one.
What's left on that 43?
I know the 133,000 we just borrowed in this budget year, and it's a 5-year.
Okay.
I don't have the numbers in front of us on how much is left on the other ones. I think it was about a year.
I think we're gonna, when Natalie and I talk to Pam, she's gonna, when things kinda get,
Yep.
yeah, we're gonna look at everything on one sheet and see where we are, like term and rate and what's left, cause you said some things were dropping off
Right, so-
early in this next fiscal year.
Yeah, when we get through the budget, she's gonna put us together a spreadsheet that we can all look at.
Yeah.
That shows, to the best of our knowledge, what the loans were for. Some of them we don't know, they're that old.
Right.
But what they're for, what the original principal amount was, when they mature, and what we owe on them.
Right.
Because that's good knowledge for all of us. We need to know where we are with our debt as an overall package, not just by department.
Yeah.
All right, the next one's litter control.
Can I
Go
point
ahead.
one thing out real quick? This has been fairly consistent from department as we've gone through here, but if you look at the payroll spreadsheet to the total column far right, and compare it to the total salary that's listed on the new budget line item, there's a variance in almost every number. So will that be trued up when we get everything finished?
It will.
Okay.
So this sheet, Lee has gone through it himself and looked at it, and we have moved people into the correct departments. There were some people on here that were in water that should have been in sewer or vice versa. That's why everything looks different. This is a true representation of where these people work now.
Okay.
And we want to make sure that
So the
happens.
numbers will match up when we're all
Yes,
there.
sir.
Okay, good deal.
Y'all see litter removal down there with supplies. The supplies stayed the same. The other services are about the same, a little less. So the total in that department, because this is that part-time person we have that rides and picks up litter, and so that number went down a little. We had another person's salary in there that wasn't really doing that job. We moved them out just today because their salary was just in the wrong place. So that's why this one's showing a decrease, because it was just getting put together wrong. The next page are lots and lots of capital improvement loans and DWSI loans, and those are the ones I'm sure we'll all want to see a spreadsheet on. I had a cheat sheet back on my desk when I was getting these put in. But basically, last year, we had $943,000 budgeted. This year, $767,000. These are actual payments that will be due. There's no way to change those. The one that dropped off that was big, you'll see about in the middle of the page, 451-835. That was the sewer note that we owed to South Haven for running the sewer and putting in that big lift station on Mackingville, which is now about to pay dividends because we've got sewer right there at that new exit. So this is the last payment. It'll be paid in the next month. You'll see it probably on your next docket of claims. So that one drops off. So that'll give us 148 this year we wouldn't have had last year. And the rest of these are still being paid off. And once we get that debt sheet together, everybody will see when these will term off. The next department is water. Personnel is on there. There are a lot of salaries out of water. And actually, half of mine comes out of there. I think it's kind of assumed that my time is spread between admin and public works. So half of my salary is out of admin, half of it's out of public works. This is just where we take it. And some of the people that work in the front office are taken out of water, and some are taken out of sewer, like we talked about before. And motor vehicle, gas, and oil went up just 1,000 there. It was trending okay. The water chemicals are at 100,000. Here is a big one. If y'all look at 400-650-542. So can you talk about meters a little bit, Lee? And
Sure.
the need for new meters and remote meters that work?
Absolutely. So typically we budgeted around $50,000 in that line item each year. We've exceeded that a lot this year. What that covers is that covers construction meters that we put in. Those are not radio read meters. Those are just manual read meters. That way they're cheaper if the builders typically tear those up with equipment and stuff like that. So we tend to put a cheaper meter in there. We do still have a lot of meters that need to be upgraded to the radio read meter. That way we can read them on the streets. It's much more efficient, a lot faster. We can pull histories, we can pull trends. We can see when people use water, how much water they used. It's just a great asset to have. Currently, we have around 700 registers that have failed on our existing radio read meters. So that additional 100,000 is gonna be to replace all of those faulty registers. It's a thorn in our side right now. It's taken us a ton of time to go out, find those meters, manually read those meters, input it in the computer system, so the ladies here can send out the correct bills, BBI can send out the correct bills. The reason we upped it an additional 50,000 on top of that is because we have so much new building in Hernando, as we all know. So that goes to the new radio read meters for those, new construction meters for those, damaged meters, faulty meters that we would normally have during the year. That 100,000 that we added on there, like I said, is just to get us back up current on all of our radio read equipment.
So just so we're clear on that, where we've got radio reads, they drive down the street and it automatically reads them. When they get done, it'll say, well, these 3 didn't read.
Right.
And that means the register's probably bad. Then they go get out, manually read those.
Right.
And move on. So it's not that we're not reading those just because.
No, all are being read.
But
They're
it
having to
does
be
slow
manually
us
read.
way down. And so
But you're
we got a
having to
lot of
replace them.
registers to replace.
We're having to replace a bunch.
Yeah.
So to give you guys kind of an outline, we can read about 3,500 meters in about 3 days with the radio read equipment. It takes us to read the other 3,500 meters out in North Mississippi. It takes us about 20 days. Those are being manually read by a person on the back of a truck. Rain, sleet, snow, hot, cold, they're standing on the back of that truck. One guy's driving, the other guy's riding on the back. He's hollering the reading in there. Another reason that the radio reads are so important and they're so hard to find right now is because you become where you don't have to find those meters each month. They get covered up with dirt, grass, gravel, stuff like that. So now that we're having a problem with those meters, we're having to go back, find these meters, and it may take an hour to find a meter. And it's just not, it's what's putting the strain on us.
And as we're finding them, are we going ahead and GPSing them and putting them in your system?
Every meter,
Okay.
every meter.
So that's
On
an
the-
expense of the new, under the new meters.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So 50,000 was added to it to make it 100,000. Just for normal stuff, normal breaks, normal new meters that are, neighborhoods are coming in, and then the additional 100,000 in there is for the damaged equipment and the faulty readings and stuff.
So we're not making any headway on replacing manual
Yes.
meters with it? We
Yes,
are?
we are. Not
Okay,
with
so-
that 100,000,
Okay.
but with the other
50.
additional 50,000 that I added in there, that is making more headway.
Okay. So it's my understanding that on older manual meters, they're also not as accurate over time. They don't read as accurately over time, and you could actually be losing some of your
Revenue.
water revenue that
So-
way. Is that
They
your-
won't tell you this, but if it goes over 1,000,000 gallons, if a meter rolls over 1,000,000 gallons, it's gonna slow down minutely, and we're gonna lose money on that meter, absolutely. Not all of
Even
them,
if it's 5%, I mean, that's still like every month you're losing 5%.
it's probably less than that, but, it's very, very minimal.
Okay.
Very minimal. Parts wear and tear, you got 1,000,000 gallons, that little wheel's turned a lot in there, and it's worn out the
I
parts.
have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. This is on the positions and stuff. You've got 3 open positions that were just recently put out on the city website that you were looking to fill.
Yes, ma'am.
So those were budgeted already? The 3 positions that we just put?
Oh, yes.
Yes, all of those are
Okay, and then a
budgeted.
new position? Okay. Because one of them was a meter reader, I thought.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Is that,
Annette stopped by the office yesterday and just said, hey, our guys are dying out there, they need
Right.
some help. And I said, I know
Right.
this, and we talked about it, and I said, well, let me just put it out on Facebook. And
Sure.
we've had quite a few responses on Facebook.
Yeah, I got an
That's what I
application last
told
night.
you when when that guy was clearing across Jaybird
Sure,
from
and hit that
me.
standpipe.
And they were all out there and they were like shorthanded and
Yeah.
working in other positions that they weren't really supposed to be working in because, one,
Yeah.
there were 3 out. And
Right.
so when those 3 come back, these 3 positions I know are needed too. I'm just, but
All of
actually
those-
for.
All of those are budgeted for, the ones you're looking at.
Right, those are budgeted for.
We're just short on those folks.
Okay.
Utility locator moved to another position, so we've got to fill that position. It was an open position also. And then, you
I
know,
knew there were 3 open.
we've got one out
And
on,
to make it worse, we've got a couple of people out sick, and we
Yeah.
all know COVID has ramped back up, and those are issues within our workforce, so
Right.
trying to find people to fill these open positions is really critical right now.
it
And
is.
we're,
Our workload is, it's incredible.
yeah, well,
It's
one
incredible.
of the guys had hit, he had worked 71 water leaks just in that day alone. Or somewhere.
Right, yeah. Sure, it's a lot. My guys are working 12 to 13 hours a day right now on the water crew.
Yeah, and it's, you know,
Not mandatory, you know, but, you know, I ask them, do they want to? And they, absolutely, so we can get a handle on some of this stuff. We've got a good many
Alderman
open.
Piper, I think you were about to say something.
In the new position for water, is that the one that we discussed earlier with checking for stormwater, or is what,
It's
what is
not,
that?
we
No,
don't have a
no, sir.
position like that in there.
Okay, so that, okay.
Describe what you needed that person for.
This is gonna be just an additional service tech on the water crew, so we can,
Okay.
you know, depends who's sick that day, or who's sick that week, you know, who's got stuff going on, you know, we may only have 2 people on the water crew, where we need 4 to 6. That way we can run 2 separate crews. We have 2 pieces of digging equipment, we have 2 separate trailers, 2 separate trucks, 2 sets of tools. We can send 2 crews out, and they can get a lot more work done, versus 1 crew with 2 to 3 people.
So you create a new position to cover people being sick.
No, sir. No, sir.
You just said they out. Come on.
they're just overwhelmed with
I'm just
all
saying
the
we're
new
overwhelmed.
houses, I think.
You're misunderstanding it, Mr. Miller.
Well,
So,
I'm going by your words. You said somebody out sick and we need 3 people on this crew, we have this person.
we need
Those are your
2,
words.
we need 2 crews going at the same time. So we need 6 people in the water department working and actively fixing
How
leaks.
many you have in there now? How many do you have in there now?
It depends on what day it is, Mr. Miller. We've got Jason,
man.
we've got,
It's not a trick question. On the average, how many people do you have there now?
4. We've got open positions there that we cannot fill, and we've got additional people that we need.
You got the position, you just don't have the bodies.
Yes, sir.
And that's not including the new position.
That's right.
So you got 6 people there already. You just don't have 2 of them filled because they vacant. This new position would make that 7 people. Now, I went to just a high school, but I do know 4, 2 open and 1 new is 7.
Right.
And you say you need 6.
That position is for a meter reader, it's not for the water crew.
The new position?
The new position is for the water crew. The existing position that we have open is for a meter reader.
But you got 3 open. And you put on the paper?
We've got the new position, the open position,
I
the
don't have
water
that paper.
operator.
Utility locator.
And then the utility locator is up top under sewer, and the service tech 1 is under sewer. So we've got 2 up there and 2 down here. So we got 3 open positions and 1 new position in there is what we got overall between water and sewer.
And 3, you're the one, you advertised.
Yeah, we advertised those 3
Yeah,
yesterday.
that's what I thought.
I mean, they've been being advertised the regular ways. I just put it on Hernando Happenings, hoping it would get some attention, and it did.
Yeah, I mean, that, and I think another one.
Everything's
You
One
put
is
another one?
sanitation, did you count it?
I did not. Yeah, we have an open one in sanitation as well, so you're right. We've got 4 open positions and 1 new one on here.
You're recommending 1 new position in the water department to be one of the water crew? Okay.
Yes, sir, on the water crew to fix the leaks and make repairs.
That's where we seem to be having the most trouble, is catching up with the water leaks. We just can't stay ahead of them at all.
We fix 3 to 5 a day, and 6 or 8 come in, depending on what day it is.
Some are quick and easy and some take forever, just depending.
Most of your guys make pretty decent, but there's a couple lower level. Do you think we need to look at adjusting those more?
I do. I honestly do, absolutely. There's one in Brush now that we moved, and then there's the meter crew is pretty low. And those start-out pays, I mean, on the water crew, if you're a service tech 1, which is what we have open, you're gonna be digging, you're gonna be wallering in mud.
Manual labor.
It's hard, it's dirty, it's nasty, and it's, you know, I mean, you can go to somewhere else and make more money than that.
Those salaries and everything that came from y'all department now. We did not set those.
I wasn't aware of that. I was always told that the aldermen set those salaries.
Come on. I ain't gonna even entertain that neither.
And we can look at some of those later on if y'all want to, you know, the lower paying ones and getting them back up to whatever y'all think we need to get them to. I don't think there's hardly, there are not many people on the city payroll who are making what they need to make, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I understand that, but
Cause
I
I
mean,
was looking,
some of
something
these guys-
had to do with some of these people been employed longer than others too. So they was getting 2% and 3% raises.
Absolutely.
Sure.
When the others came in on the pay that department head had established, that's the reason some of them been lower.
Okay.
And so as you bring those up, then what you gonna do with the one that's got 5 and 6 and 10 years seniority don't know?
That's the one I was mentioning in the Brush. He's been here a long time.
I see what
So I
you're
think-
saying, yeah, if you bump those up, then then they're awfully close to the people that have been here for 10 years,
Right.
if not level with them, yeah.
But we don't have a formal seniority pay.
We do not. We do not in that department. We have that in the fire department, I believe, is the only department we really have tenure raises. And the police department has, they don't have them based on years, they have them based on positions. So those are set.
So given that reality that you just discussed, another potential way to look at raises is looking more at the lower level positions of specific dollar amount. I know that that could be a potential option rather than a percent to every employee, a dollar amount to some of these hourly employees, and then perhaps a smaller percentage to the department heads, or something to make it all work that way. If that's where the concern is, I'm just saying, right? If the concern is that you have people that have gotten raises over years or whatever it may be, you know, do we need to look at it in a different way rather than just a percentage?
I can understand that.
Yeah.
You got a guy making $12 or $13 an hour, the 30% is gonna be a lot different than somebody making $20, $22 an hour.
No.
There is probably in all the departments a lot of individual digging and looking that probably needs to be done once we put together a personnel committee to look at those.
Didn't one time we do some kind of salary survey or something like that?
One was done in what, 2018, we did a salary survey, and I have that, I mean, it's 3 years old now, but we've got that.
I know we went to MML, that guy gave us a disc.
Well, the salary survey is from other municipalities, but the only downside of the salary survey, the distance we got, it don't take into account the revenues from those cities. In other words, your revenue in one city is at this level, so your employee's salary is not gonna be at the same level. And what a lot of municipalities are trying to do, they're trying to take that salary survey, and say, oh, they making this much in Columbus. Well, look at Columbus' revenue. Look at Biloxi as an example.
I thought, excuse me if I interrupted, but I thought they came in and kind of talked with some guys, did some interviews, and said, hey, this guy needs to make this amount of money, this guy needs to make this amount of money. Did they do that here? I know
No,
they did the county years back.
only survey that they came in and looked at was the parks.
Okay.
That was the only on-site, that had been talked about job performance. The rest of it, come from, well, they do come in, like I said, they ask volunteer information. In other words, they send out a
Questionnaire.
field or questionnaire.
Yeah.
And as you're looking, you see a lot of cities, I think Hernando was one that, a lot of cities don't even send them in.
But didn't we hire the Stennis Institute in 2018 or 19 under the last administration to do a true salary survey? I think we did. I think that
That's
information.
what I was
Right.
confused. I don't know if we did. I thought we did, but I may be wrong.
I know we did our own kind of a city by city
Okay.
survey, and we, in Hernando, were low compared to the other cities, and we gave some really nice pay increases in 2018, like 10 and 12% increases to bring our people up to a competitive salary compared to the others in the county. But Chip, I don't remember an outside service doing it, and I may be wrong. Do you,
I
Andrew?
don't know that I've
No,
seen one, so.
But I'm with Alderman Piper and the rest of them, I think that's something we can look at after we set the budget and stuff, and then, you know, so I think it's gonna, we wanna have, enough time to actually do it before prior to the budget. Because ain't them many days left.
And just so everyone is very clear, a budget process in a non-election year starts in May. So we're not all jammed up here at the end. We start working on it in May. Now, a lot of the pertinent numbers come in towards the end, like the insurance and those things. And obviously, the closer you get to end of year, the better you can see trends. But if we start working on it and talking about it in May, it's a lot easier than starting on it in July. So election years are an oddity, and they are a little harder. All right, so we've looked at the water personnel. We'll go down to water supplies. A large number there is the 100,000 for water chemicals. That just is what it is. That's what it costs us to put all the stuff in the water as we pump it out of the ground to make it safe. We talked about the new meters. Any of those other numbers in that one y'all needed to look at or talk about under water supplies? If not, we can turn the page. The professional services for the audit. So as y'all know, we're doing the audit for about 22,000, I believe, 24. We split that between admin and public works, so that wouldn't be a $20,000 number. However, we've been hiring an outside person who has still been helping us to get caught up and is working pretty regularly, and her pay would come out of there. So that's why that number is at 20 right there. And you'll see the matching 20 when we get to the general fund. The professional fees, I knew what that was when we budgeted for it, so I'm gonna look it up again. 406.5601. Because Lee and I talked about it, and then we said we're not gonna remember it when we get to the meeting.
We did.
Let's see. That's, I'm trying to remember what we did there. Because we didn't spend a lot out of it, but we knew there was something we were gonna spend out of it. What did we talk about, Lee?
I can't remember. Who would the
Because we
payouts
didn't
for?
spend much of it this year, but there was a reason we had it there. There was a reason we talked about. We'll,
Is that engineering fees or some project or something maybe?
that is where we pay Joe Frank's engineering fees. That's it. And he just hadn't given us a bill yet this year, so we're probably about to get.
Probably for engineering for the water
Yep, that's
towers
what
and
those
stuff.
are. Yep. And there's engineering services down here, but those professional fees, some of those are with the water towers, some of them are not generally. I don't, it's almost like there's something that's been miskeyed that was supposed to be put here that wasn't.
Is there any legal fees that would be paid out of that?
Legal fees would be paid out of that if we have them.
And there's a
There's
line
water
item for
negotiation.
legal services on down further, what would be the difference?
Well, you're probably right. Let me look at, it's gonna take a minute to catch up. Let me go to prior year and see what we paid out of that. It'll take it just a minute to load. I'm just gonna flag that one as something we need to really talk about because I know Lee and I talked about it, but it's been 2 days ago, so.
It has.
postage here, is that, I guess for mailing the water bills, is that what that is, the 45,000 for postage? 650, 605,
Say that one more time.
650, 605, 45,000.
Yes.
Says postage, that's mailing the water bill
It is.
each month.
Do any of those go electronic to anybody? If they,
Maybe a legal requirement to mail.
They all go out paper.
they do? Is that required?
No. I guess it's just what we've always done, but that's not a good reason to keep doing stuff.
You have to understand, can you require a person to have electronic service at their home?
I'm not saying you have to do it, but people could sign up
But I'm
for
just
it.
saying, if
Yeah.
somebody requests something like that.
Yeah, I'm just saying it could be a
That would be a
request.
good option. for sure.
Online billing, you know how people sometimes want online billing? I don't personally,
E-statement.
because then I forget about it if it doesn't come into my in my mailbox, but that's just me in general. You know, I'm a little old school on that, I guess, but some people like, you
And
know,
if they're set up for automated drafting on the account, like they're most likely not looking
for the bill.
at that water bill in a lot of cases.
Right. Yeah, and you get the bill.
Okay, I know what comes out of this now. The big one that comes out of it are the big fees that the Mississippi Department of Health charges us. We just hadn't gotten them this year yet. That's what it is. We looked that one up.
The water testing,
So,
so.
yeah, they charge us a lot of money for the water testing. We've got all the different tanks. So that's what comes out of that.
So not Joe Frank.
Not Joe Frank. He comes out of the engineering one further down, where we put 5,000.
Okay. That's water testing.
Fire plug maintenance, printing and binding, that is the actual printing of the bills. That's what we pay BBI to do that.
I think we could cut that cost if we offered it electronic to folks.
Yeah, that's a good point. Will you, Pam, can you look into that with BBI and see what we could, and BBI may not be able to do that. It may be through our website, our pay service.
Oh, yeah. 'Cause I just threw mine.
The utilities, that's the 125,000, that's the utilities at the water plants.
It's the same every month.
The outside repairs to utilities, 120, the water tank and well maintenance at 212. We're under that this year, but we're gonna have to be paying them to actually go inside the couple of the water tanks next
That's
year,
correct.
clean them out.
Coat the insides of them.
Anything else in those that y'all see that stands out?
What is telephone controls?
So if a tank goes down or a pump stops, it automatically calls to dispatch, so we don't lose water pressure and have to send out water letters to everybody.
One more
We
time?
basically get the alarm.
It's like an automated system.
You
that
get called
When the tank level gets to a critical level, it pages out, calls folks, texts folks, emails folks, says, hey, check on this, it's getting bad. So we go to the water plants then in a hurry and figure out why the water level's at a critical level and make the repairs or reset pumps or whatever we need to do.
Say, for example, like what happened off of Jaybird when that cap was shredded by that piece of equipment
Sure.
and all the water pressure dropped. Of course, it was a Friday at like, 6 o'clock or something.
That's right.
When it happened. How does that get out to everybody? Because I had some folks ask me, outside of me putting it on whatever homeowners association
Sure.
sites or Facebook or whatever, trying to get it out to people, I had several people say, what is the protocol? What is the process for letting people know that?
Right.
Is that
No,
service? It's something different.
that's something completely different. That's just to let you know
It just-
that something's wrong.
Right, it just lets our workers know something.
Oh, okay.
It's a monitoring for the water towers and the wells and stuff like
And it's
that.
something we're required to have in our
We are, by law.
water inspection each year.
Okay.
So if we drop on down to the very end to water capital outlay, we're not showing any capital outlay this year. So the last line you're gonna see that's anything is contingency. So basically, this is what's left. And I know we probably all, I feel like we all think we need to be working towards a rainy day fund. which in general is what you would think would be 6 months of your expenses. Not 6 months of everything, but just your expenses. This gets us closer to there. This is $1,191,000 in contingency. Contingency is the same as a rainy day fund, it's just what we've got left. And we can put some of that back into budget items if we wanted to, or we can leave it there as contingency. And the best case scenario, if everything's running fine, we've got all the equipment we need, is we leave this there, and it's still there at the end of the year. If we have an emergency in the middle of the year, we might have to touch it with board's permission, but hopefully it would still be there, and we can build on it a little more next year to make ourselves more financially stable. So that's what that number is. And so at the end, the fund balance is zero. That's what a budget's supposed to look like. Your expenditures plus your contingency equals, or plus the revenue minus the expenditures, and contingency equals zero. So, and that's where this one showed up.
So we're looking at a $1.1 million surplus, basically.
Right. Almost 1.2. Yeah. And we're
And
not,
that's- but
at
that's
this time,
just in-
and we're not proposing a rate increase.
And that's just in the utility funds. I guess
That's
we
just the
can-
utility funds.
Those funds cannot go anywhere else.
They cannot go anywhere else. We can't take those and put them in the general fund. They have to stay in this fund. So let's just say at the end of the year that the crew at 2.4 million, when they do the true up, and if we've used more, we might owe them 300,000. If we've used less, they'll give us back 300,000 a few months down the road, so. But anyway, I feel like this is a pretty solid, no frills budget. Probably the only frills in it, and when I say frills, it's usually capital expenditures, are the tractors, which are not a frill. We know we've got to have good tractors. We'll get y'all back some information on that. I do want to read back over the few to-do lists y'all gave me, because I want to take this very seriously and make sure I get y'all the information back. Somebody was asking the question about the total increase of all payroll. I'll get that back to you. Everybody wants to see if, once we get the general fund all put together, if we can raise that number in paving from the 850 up to possibly 1,200. I mean, 1,200,000. We want to find out, after talking to our senator and our state representative and MDOT, if we could possibly use this 250 grand for anything else. We want to talk to Civil Link about possibly updating our street maintenance report they gave us and what that might cost us. We need to find out what our outstanding past due water debts are. We want to itemize the tractors. We'll talk to Vince about the NRCS grant and sodding and seeding, those areas that are being worked on. And let's see, oh, no, I'm sorry, I was mixed up. We are gonna do the grass cutting tractors, but the other one I talked about is the $2,000 in furniture. We'll itemize that. We're gonna look at the possibility of raising pay in low-paying public works positions. That may be after the budget. We deal with that later. I'm gonna see if I can find a salary survey that was done by the Stennis Institute if one exists. And the last thing, I put a note now for 400, 650, 601. Oh, we already answered that, the professional fees item, so that one's been answered in the meeting. So, does everybody have a good feeling about these pieces and ready to come back for another special meeting Thursday night and do some more pieces with other department heads? This turned out pretty good, just 2 hours instead of a 6-hour marathon meeting. I like doing it this way in pieces, and quite frankly, my week last week didn't let me get the entire budget done, so I'm getting it done for y'all in pieces, so.
Good job, Lee. Good job, Mayor.
Thank you.
And thank y'all for doing an actual working meeting and asking
Absolutely.
questions. And I feel like this is not Lee's budget, it's not the mayor's budget, it's the citizens' budget.
That's right.
All of our budget
Right.
together. So any advice that can come from y'all's brains to make this better, that's what we want.
Absolutely.
So, okay, if everybody's satisfied with what we've looked at tonight, could I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Do we
Do
need
y'all
a motion
want
to
to-
recess? Or
Yeah,
do
do
we
y'all
need
want to
to-
recess it till Thursday night instead of adjourning? So we don't have to do another special meeting? Is that good with y'all? Okay, can we have a motion to recess this working budget meeting until Thursday night at 6 o'clock?
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Question before we do that.
Yes.
Since this agenda was specific. It was agenda specific. Can you recess a meeting with a specific agenda? I don't think so.
We may not can, that's a good
Because see,
point.
you had on here, but then you said department head presentation. Is that enough to cover everything? I'm just
Well,
asking.
They don't
for-
list any department specific. It
Well, that's what I'm
says
saying. I'm just
department
asking. I just wanted to make sure.
I feel comfortable with it.
Okay, that's good.
I don't feel like we're trying to pull the wool over anybody's
No,
eyes.
I just
so-
wanted to make sure, that's all.
head. It just
Yeah.
says department heads, it don't say
Okay.
any.
It doesn't say this was only Public Works tonight.
And I will also make sure that Gia puts it on our Facebook page that this meeting has been recessed until Thursday, so if the public wants to watch, they'll know it. Sure. So, okay, so with the motion and a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. This meeting is recessed until 6 PM Thursday. Thank y'all.